All right, YouTube, if you check the Weather Channel or anything like that, you know an El Nino is forming and not a normal El Nino. What you have occasionally is a major increase in the temperature of the waters, sort of in a band along the tropics off the coast of South America, extending out into the Pacific. And as this gets stronger, it creates the El Nino weather pattern. Now, what that basically means from the standpoint of those living within the lower 48, it means those in like Southern California and parts nearby tend to get more rain than normal. People in the Pacific Northwest and parts of Northern California, they don't get any extra precipitation, but it's warmer. Those of us in New England, it's quite a bit warmer, but also somewhat drier, as well as the upper Midwest, sort of like Minnesota and the Dakotas. And then down in the southeast, sort of quarter of the United States, it stays cool. It also, they can get more or less precipitation, I believe, but basically it's just cooler than normal. Personally, I welcome this. I welcome the idea that we would have an El Nino winter because the last time that we had even a fairly moderate El Nino, it was substantially warmer. The peach tree actually managed to blossom and put out fruit the next year because it hadn't been, completely wind blasted by sub-zero temperatures all winter. Last winter, forget about it. One of the branches on the tree actually died. I'm surprised the whole tree didn't keel over. Last winter was exceptionally cold. I think it was a good 4 or 5 degrees below normal. And Vermont is already cold enough, so even an average winter is, mind-numbingly cold for about 2 months, starting around early January into the end of February. That's basically the coldest part of the year. So, my birthday falls right in midwinter, so it's basically as cold as you can get. So, an abnormally cold winter just makes it all that much worse. We were burning wood almost every day just to add a little bit of extra warmth. So, hopefully, we'll have that warmer than normal winter. I welcome it. I really do. I would like to see 4 or 5 extra degrees. I wouldn't, maybe, El Nino based warming plus abnormally warm anyway for some other random reason. And it's like 5 to 10 degrees above normal so that it's like, 35 degrees on New Year's. I could deal with that. And California needs it. Most of the time when people are talking about it, they're saying one of two things. They're either remarking on how California can expect more rain than normal, which is not a given. It's very likely, but it's not certain, and by no means are they going to get enough rain to do away with their drought. It might give some drought relief, but let's be serious here for a minute. Or they frame it in terms of, well, it looks like it might rival the previously largest known on record, which was 97-98. The winter of 97 into 1998 was the strongest El Nino on record, and I think they said the Boston area was about 4 degrees above normal for that winter period. And, Boston, to me, Boston is slightly chilly. Until you get more inland, you're not really getting the true cold. When you're right on the coast, the ocean, because it's staying liquid, is moderating the temperature to some extent. It's like people say, oh, New York City is so cold. No, it's not. Trust me, I went through New York City on my trip to Texas. Here it was cold. New York City was okay, I can see my breath, but, I'm almost want to strip down to a t-shirt. By the time I got to southern Pennsylvania, it was like, oh, it feels like summertime to me. And by the time I got to, like, lower Illinois, I'm like, wow, I'm sweating. So, yes, California should see some drought relief. Unfortunately, the area that's kind of screwed is the Pacific Northwest, because it will remain potentially somewhat warmer than normal, which, there's fire hazard as the temperature rises, but also it's not going to give them any extra precipitation. In fact, it might be drier than normal. They've already got a drought. The reason people talk more about California is theirs is more prolonged. It's had time to fester and become quite severe. We're talking about a monumental drought over half the state. The rest of the state's at least in a moderate drought. In the Pacific Northwest, it's more mild to moderate in most areas, and then some areas are getting towards severe or are severe now, but it's not as bad as the one that they've got in Central and South California. Here, of course, we've been pounded for the last 2 years straight by extreme cold. they called it the polar vortex or whatever. There's no polar vortex, it's just natural shift in the weather patterns. Um, and yes, it was mind numbing. We saw, I think, 25 below here. For those of you who are not aware what that feels like, it hurts to breathe if you're not breathing through, something to cover your mouth. If you're not wearing a face mask or something like that, you're basically breathing into your arm. You're like, Jesus, can't do anything about it. It's so cold. Your teeth start to hurt. If you're talking, your lungs feel like they're on fire, or that somebody's just poured ice water down your lungs or something. It's quite unpleasant. So, a warmer than normal winter, which we haven't really had since 2010, would be welcome. Literally, all the winters since then have been either about average. I think 2011, 2012 are kind of about average. 2013, 2014's winters, the last two, were brutal. So a warmer than normal winter will feel extra warm. And looking at the weather forecast for the next couple of weeks, we're supposed to hit like 92 degrees in a couple days. That generally does not happen. We're in late summer here in northern New England. This is like sort of the cutoff date for when people are actually doing much outdoors other than trick-or-treating or something. Usually by sometime in September, we're getting a killing frost. Definitely by early October. If these temperatures are going to be the norm for this kind of weather pattern for this time of year, I'm expecting an extra 3 or 4 degrees at least. Because usually by now it's gone down so that the highest you're getting is 80. Well, next couple of weeks it's all in the mid 80s and upwards of 90. That's abnormal for Vermont this time of year, rather abnormal. But we get from El Nino, we get extra warm weather. The southeast, you're going to be cooler than normal. But then again, you're in the southeast. You're already south of the Mason-Dixon line. It's never cold down there, even if it gets colder than normal. Stop fucking complaining. I find it hilarious because when I was down in Texas on winter break one time, people are wearing like sweaters and sweatpants and sweatshirts and boots and gloves and stuff in southern Texas right across the Mexican border. It's like 75 degrees. I'm sitting there sweating my ass off. I'm like, what? You people are crazy. Down in Florida, same thing. You go down to like the Tampa area in winter or spring or whatever. And people are they're wearing long shirts, and it's like, well, it's 70 degrees out. Why? Why would you do this? It doesn't make any sense to somebody who's from a much colder climate, where at the same time is buried in 2 or 3 feet of snow. Down there, it's like, oh well, we just had a nice rain shower and the flowers are blooming. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope it comes true, and it may be the strongest El Nino on record. At the very least, it's already the second strongest at this same time of year, and it's still forming. It's getting stronger. If it continues at this rate, it will either be the strongest or the second strongest on record, which we really need. California needs the rain. New England needs warmer weather. Always need warmer weather. So I'm content. I'm looking forward to it. That's about all. Peace out.